Polipede works here. What if I told you that a tribe of ancient giants are actually cannibals? Let's get into it. In fairy tales, namely Jack and the Beanstalk, giants are depicted to have an appetite for humans. They want to eat them. However, in One Piece we see that giants, at least those of Elbaf and those that are of Marineford, don't have this animosity towards humans. They're quite friendly with them. Though, what if this cannibalism relationship was represented not between human and giant in One Piece, but was represented between giant and ancient giant in One Piece? Let me explain. Okay, so if you recall, in Thriller Bark, the sort of pseudo-end boss, Oars, Special Zombie 900, was our first ancient giant in the series. He is a tall, red humanoid, and he has a belt of 3 skulls. His descendant, member of the Whitebeard Pirates, Little Oars Jr., also known as Oars III, if you look at his Jolly Roger, wears a necklace with 3 skulls on it. Now, if you look at these guys' bodies, they're some of the biggest humanoids in One Piece, right? So if they have skulls that they use as jewelry, those skulls have to be pretty massive. I think those are the skulls of giants, namely normal giants. Could be giants of a slightly larger variety, but I do think they are giant skulls. The size comparison that we are given with Oimon and Kashi compared to Oars isn't that good of an indication. However, when Oars is fighting the female giants of the Marine Giant Squadron, we see that based on her height, she is about around the size of what Oars would need to make a necklace out of a person's skull. So I had to say that it's very possible that the skulls that adorn both Oars' belt and Oars' Jr.'s necklace are from giants that they defeated in battle and presumably picked their bodies clean, taking their skulls as trophies. You might be asking, why am I focusing on cannibalism as opposed to them just taking the skulls as just trophies? Well, here's the thing. I think the cannibalism is a theme because of a fear response that we see from a giant, namely a giant from Elbaf. You see, when Big Mom's flashback happens, right? And we have the infamous scene of a child Big Mom devouring Mother Caramel and the children of the Lamb House. A giant from Elbaf sees this. Now, mind you, giants from Elbaf are hardened warriors. So why would this giant be off-put and fearful of this act, as heinous as it may be? I think it's because based on the size relationship between Big Mom and those that she devoured, it might have reminded him of stories of how ancient giants used to hunt normal giants and eat them, picking their bones and using them for jewelry. Because there's no real reason why a hardened warrior from Elbaf would be off-put by this act unless it reminded him of something. Now we get another fear response from a giant to an ancient giant in Marineford when the giant squadron of the Marines are faced with the towering presence of Oars Jr. One of them even says it's quite different having to look up at someone. So the fear could be ingrained. And then again, we don't know where these giants are from. They could have originally been from Elbaf and heard the same stories that our giant friend in Big Mom's flashback could have heard. Now, do I think all ancient giants are cannibals and take the corpses of their victims as trophies? No, I do not. I think it boils down to a very specific tribe of ancient giants whom do this act. I think Oars Jr. used to be a part of that tribe, and Oars was definitely a member until his death. So, Oars, as you remember, has red skin and blonde hair. Orange Jr. is yellow skinned and has red hair, like a chartreuse or something like that, right? So I think both of them were members, and I think ancient giants of this tribe were probably the main candidates for cloning, which is why a lot of the numbers in Kaido's entourage are multicolored, but there are some that aren't, like the female giant in Hacha. They are flesh-toned, and we know that normal flesh-toned ancient giants do exist because we do see a very tall humanoid with horns carrying a club in Odin's flashback. And even those who see him, this ancient giant, remark that he's huge. And we know that he's an ancient giant because he carries a club, a very favored weapon of ancient giants. You may be asking, why do I think the skulls that adorn Oris and Oris Jr. are real skulls and not just fancy jewelry? Well, the thing is, unlike, say, the skulls that adorn Stanson, the member of the New Giant Pirates, Oris and Oris Jr.'s skulls have these formation cracks on them, which indicate to me that the artist's intent was for them to be organic skulls from actual individuals, in this case, giant individuals. So that's why I think these skulls that adorn Oris and Oris Jr. are actually real skulls and not just fancy jewelry like the skulls that adorn Stanson. Now you may be asking, do I think the ancient giants suffered any consequences for these acts? I think so. I think bands of giants would come together to take down members of this ancient giant tribe, take their horns from them, shave them down, and affix them to their own helmets. This would then send a message to other enemy giant factions as to say, look how strong me and the boys are. We took down an ancient giant. Don't mess with us. However, now with that being said, let's talk about the real world. In our real world, horned helmets have no association with Viking culture. What is very interesting is that horned helmets have existed. They existed 1,000 years before Vikings were a thing. However, they have nothing to do with combat. They were used for sun worship and political standing. They were a headdress for those two things. They have nothing to do with actual combat. What's very interesting, rewinding things back to One Piece, is that the Vikings in One Piece, the giants, they do have a religion or a culture centered around sun worship. So that's a little interesting that those two things kind of parallel. What's also very interesting is that there are helmets of actual real world Vikings in One Piece. So the real thing is represented in One Piece. You can see this in the characters of Dory and Haruden. They wear helmets that are very similar to the ones that the real world Vikings wore. What's interesting now is that we have both the fake association of the horned helmets and the real thing, both present in One Piece. Seeing as how both are present in One Piece, I think there is a lore implication for the horned helmet existing, seeing as how the real helmet also exists, because otherwise there will be no reason for the horned one existing, seeing as how we have the real one. But here we have both of them. So I think the reason for the horned one existing is that it's a status symbol of a giant who has defeated an ancient giant. And you can see this in some giants, like say Bragi, whose horns on his helmet seem to be made of bone, and one of the two elders, as when his horn breaks off in the Big Mom flashback, it looks like the horn was actually made of bone and not metal. So that's what I think. I think they're a status symbol of strength in the giant culture of One Piece when a giant is wearing a horned helmet. And I think it's also replicated too when the horns seemingly are made of metal, like those on Stanson's helmet. It's to reflect the same ideal, but without the actual trophy. So it's as to say, I'm a tough guy. I'm wearing this horn helmet. I have the same strength as an ancient giant without actually having to have had take the horns of an ancient giant. And with that being said, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like stuff like this, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Polipede Works. And if you like what you see, I would appreciate your subscription. Thank you so much. See you next time.